Right now, beneath the scenic beauty of Yellowstone National Park, with its geysers and hot springs and bison herds, there is a monster. A reservoir of molten rock roughly 40 miles long, 20 miles wide, and 5 miles deep. It has erupted 3 times in the last 2.1 million years. Each eruption was thousands of times more powerful than any volcanic event in recorded human history. And it is due to erupt again. When it does, and it will not just destroy Yellowstone, it could end civilization as we know it. This is not alarmist speculation. This is what the geological record tells us, plainly and undeniably. Let us walk through what would actually happen if the Yellowstone supervolcano erupted tomorrow. The first sign would be earthquakes, not 1 or 2, hundreds, thousands. A swarm of seismic activity as the magma chamber below the surface fractures through miles of solid rock. In the weeks or days before the eruption, the ground inside the park would begin to swell visibly, rising several feet as the pressure below becomes unbearable. Geysers would go haywire, hot springs would change color. Animals, sensing the seismic activity, would begin fleeing the area. Then the surface would crack, and the eruption would begin with a violence that defies human comprehension. A supervolcanic eruption is not like a normal volcanic eruption. It is not a cone of lava spilling down a mountainside. It is an explosion that blasts the entire landscape into the atmosphere. The eruption column would punch through the troposphere and into the stratosphere, reaching heights of over 20 miles within minutes. The initial blast would be heard across the entire North American continent. Within an hour, pyroclastic flows, superheated clouds of gas, ash, and pulverized rock moving at over 400 miles per hour at temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, would obliterate everything within a 60-mile radius. Yellowstone National Park would cease to exist. The nearby towns of West Yellowstone, Cody, and Jackson would be buried instantly. Every living thing within that radius, every person, every animal, every tree, would be incinerated in seconds. But that is just the immediate zone. The ashfall is what would truly end the modern world. Within the first day, a thick blanket of volcanic ash would cover an area within 500 miles. Cities like Salt Lake City, Denver, Boise, and Billings would receive inches to feet of ash. Volcanic ash is not like fireplace ash. It is composed of tiny shards of glass and pulverized rock. It is abrasive, slightly corite, and when wet, it becomes as heavy as concrete. Roofs would collapse under the weight. Every building, every vehicle, every road within hundreds of miles would be buried. The ash would clog every engine, every ventilation system, every water treatment plant. Breathing it would be like inhaling ground glass. Millions of people would develop severe respiratory distress within hours. Within 3 days, ash would spread across the entire continental United States. Even the East Coast, thousands of miles away, would receive measurable ashfall. Airports would close nationwide. The electrical grid would fail as ash shorts out transformers and coats solar panels. Agricultural land across the Midwest, America's breadbasket, would be buried under a toxic blanket that would render the soil infertile for years, possibly decades. America's food production would essentially cease. But the truly catastrophic effects would be global. The eruption would inject billions of tons of sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, where it would react with water to form sulfuric acid aerosols. These aerosols would reflect sunlight back into space, creating what scientists call a volcanic winter. Global temperatures would drop by 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit within months. Growing seasons would shorten or disappear entirely across much of the northern hemisphere. Crops would fail worldwide. The last time a much smaller eruption, Mount Tambora in 1815, injected significant sulfur into the stratosphere, the following year was called the year without a summer. Temperatures dropped by less than 2 degrees, and it caused widespread famine across Europe and North America. Yellowstone would be hundreds of times larger, we are talking about a potential decade of dramatically reduced temperatures, worldwide crop failures, global famine affecting billions, the collapse of international trade as supply chains disintegrate, political instability, wars over dwindling resources, mass migration from affected regions. Modern civilization is built on a foundation of reliable food production and stable climate. Both would be shattered simultaneously. Now here's the question everyone asks. When will it happen? The honest answer is that nobody knows. The three previous super eruptions occurred roughly 600,000 to 700,000 years apart. The last one was 640,000 years ago. By that rough timing, we are within the statistical window. But volcanic systems do not run on schedules. It could be tomorrow, it could be 100,000 years from now. Current monitoring by the USGS Yellowstone Volcano Observatory shows no imminent signs of eruption. The magma chamber is there, the heat source is active, but there is no indication that an eruption is coming in our lifetimes. The ground deformation, seismic patterns, and gas emissions are all within normal ranges. That said, a supervolcanic eruption is the single most destructive natural event that could befall human civilization, short of a major asteroid impact. And unlike an asteroid, we cannot detect it years in advance. We might get weeks of warning, maybe months if we are lucky. And there is absolutely nothing we could do to stop it. Yellowstone is a reminder that we live on a thin crust, floating on a sea of molten rock, and that the forces beneath our feet are incomprehensibly more powerful than anything we have ever built. Sleep well tonight. If the ground under Yellowstone keeps you up, subscribe, because understanding these threats is